It's a banality that applies to zombies, everyone's favorite decomposing, man-eating fiends, but it's also true of the zombie films, television series, books, and graphic novels that are being devoured by ever-increasing audiences, long after the trend for this particular breed of undead monsters seem to be heading for the grave. And just when you think they're finished, they get right back up again and shamble towards you. Welcome back to Patrol Clip, everybody, and it's been more than a decade since zombies began their relentless shuffle into the mainstream of popular culture. In Danny Boyle's 2002 hit 28 Days Later, the mindless cannibals weren't called zombies. They were simply known as the infected. But they were close enough to remind the film industry that there was money to be made from the dormant horror subgenre. 2 years later saw the release of both a frenetic zombie action movie, Dawn of the Dead, and a groundbreaking zombie romantic comedy, or Zom rom-com, Shaun of the Dead, both critical and commercial smashes. Since then, the films have kept lurching onto the silver screen. By the time Brad Pitt's World War Z was released, it seemed it was several years late to the party. Surely there was nothing new to be said about the undead. That tardiness, along with reports of the film's troubled production, suggested that World War Z should have suffered a fate worse than polyester at the box office. But wrong! Instead, it went on to rake in $540 million, making it one of 2013's 10 biggest blockbusters. And zombie fever hasn't been confined to only cinema. Comic book series with the same grisly antagonist, The Walking Dead, was launched in 2003 and was adapted into a TV series in 2010. The Walking Dead's 4th season was watched by 16.11 million viewers, 5 million more than the equivalent episode the season before. If that weren't enough, the more thoughtful French take on the risen dead, Les Revenants, was shown on British television as The Return, and became the first fully subtitled drama to be broadcast in over 20 years. In 2018, Disney released a TV movie simply titled Zombies, a music and dance-filled story set in the fictitious world of Seabrook, a cookie-cutter community brimming with perky conformity, 50 years after a zombie apocalypse. It was released and became a hit, immediately preparing for a 2019 sequel called Zombies 2. Of course, all this brings an interesting question to the forefront. Why is there so much fanaticism with the living dead, especially for the movie industry? Well, that's what we're going to discuss today. Make sure you like and share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more things Patrol Clip. And remember, if you do subscribe today and leave your email, you'll get a free PDF for how to become a successful social media influencer.
Here we go. We love the apocalypse.
The trend of apocalypticism has been growing, with increasing numbers of books, television shows, and movies portraying post-apocalyptic worlds over the past several decades. Among them is AMC's sci-fi series Fear the Walking Dead, which of course is a direct spin-off of the original Walking Dead, and it follows characters as they try to survive a zombie-driven apocalypse. "We're living in very uncertain times," says Max Brooks, who wrote the book on which the World War Z film is based. "People have a lot of anxiety about the future. They're constantly being battered with these very scary, very global catastrophes. I think a lot of people think the system is breaking down, and just like the 1970s, people need a safe place to explore their apocalyptic worries." Yeah, that sounds about right.
Zombies are more thrilling than they are terrifying.
Walking Dead humans don't exist, and people know this. They enjoy the scary feelings they get when watching horror shows because they know they aren't really in danger, says David Rudd, a psychologist and president of the University of Memphis. Because they know the risk of something like a zombie attack is marginal, they experience excitement instead of fear, Rudd said. Simon Pegg, the star and co-writer of Shaun of the Dead from 2004, traces the zombie revival back to the release of Resident Evil, the video game that terrified and transfixed PlayStation users in 1996, and which has been spawning sequels as well as film spin-offs ever since. But the game's creators, and the creators of every subsequent zombie project, owe a debt of gratitude to George A. Romero, the writer-director of a low-budget black-and-white shocker, Night of the Living Dead, in 1968. Previously to that, zombies were just considered sorcerers' slaves in Haitian voodoo folklore, but Romero imported them into contemporary America. He also codified a new set of undead rules. His zombies had an insatiable hunger for human flesh. They hunted in packs, and they were pretty much unstoppable unless you killed the brain or decapitated them entirely. They could turn their victims into fellow zombies with one bite, and, just as importantly, they were a metaphor for everything that bothered Romero about the modern world. Now that's pretty deep.
I know we're in here now.
Zombies represent human reconnection.
In zombie apocalypse stories, people are generally more likely to survive if they seek power in numbers. It's easier to fight off a horde of the Walking Dead if you have a dozen people by your side. Kind of simple logic there. So of course, this means you can't disregard other people, and face-to-face communication is a necessity. A stark contrast from today's world in which cell phones and computers allow people to communicate without ever even meeting in person.
We're seduced by the art of survival.
Even if you don't spend your life preparing for the apocalypse, it might have crossed your mind how you might handle things, especially when watching others go through it in a fictional world. After all, the drive to survive is a deeply rooted instinct. A literary scholar at Stanford University, Angela Becerra Vidergar, says that dystopian shows help people work through how they'd act in a survivalist situation. Watching people fight for their lives against zombies, quote-unquote, allows the audience to work through some of those difficult, threatening ethical dilemmas, or to think about their own capacity for survival. You'll begin to ask yourself questions like, what kind of character would I be like, or who would I relate to? And even, of course, what would I be willing to do in order to survive? Don't move, deadheads, because the zombies could be waiting for you right outside. Keep watching this video for more reasons of why the zombies are such a craze.
We also like fear.
People enjoy watching their greatest fears come to life in a fictional story, says Paul Bloom, a psychologist at Yale University. Bloom's theory is that fictional tragedy and imaginary horrors help prepare people for real life by delivering a moral precept. To compare zombies to their rivals, vampires and werewolves, symbolize the thrill and romance of having superhuman strength and no conscience, hence the Twilight and True Blood franchises. But there's nothing glamorous about being a zombie. Unlike vampires and werewolves, they're not frightening because of how powerful they are. They're frightening because of how dismal it would be to become one yourself. Another difference is that werewolves and vampires are content to share the planet with the rest of us. When a radiation leak or glowing meteorite begins zombifying the populace, the result is a pandemic, which leaves the world in chaos. Unsurprisingly, the world is just a little bit more bleak with zombies around.
Zombies help relieve stress.
The alternate reality of a zombie apocalypse allows people to briefly escape the stress of social pressure and information saturation they encounter in their everyday lives, says Douglas Rushkoff, author of Present Shock: When Everything Happens Now. People watch zombie shows almost as a dream come true. But in the zombie apocalypse, there's no Twitter, there's no cell phone, there's no boss, there's no IRS. Instead, the only goal is to survive and help the people you care about survive, he said. It's relaxing on a certain level.
And I'm sorry, brother.
We can handle this scary situation.
The zombies in AMC series Fear the Walking Dead are the kind that shuffle along slowly with limited coordination, and they clearly lack cognitive abilities. Obviously, they can be deadly, but it's not like a professional fighter coming at you. We can actually deal with zombies, says Richard Smith, a mathematician at University College Dublin in Ireland, who uses zombies to create mathematical models. Fighting zombies is easier if there's teamwork, Smith said. If we fight them individually, we're not going to be too effective, because most individuals just aren't good at fighting. Until 2004, when Zack Snyder remade Dawn of the Dead, zombies were slow-moving, doing a zombie shuffle, I guess. Imagine Michael Jackson's 1983 music video for the song Thriller. They're a bit more sped up in Snyder's remake, and they've evolved in more recent zombie films like World War Z, where they move faster than hell.
Zombie stories make us feel hopeful.
There are typically at least a few survivors during a zombie apocalypse, and that gives the audience hope that things might work out even in the toughest of times. Maybe they'll even figure out a way to overcome the zombies. But, of course, if they did, then the thrilling tale would be over.
Hope is a positive emotion that humans instinctively want to feel,
Says Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist. Life through rose-colored glasses keeps us healthy, energized, and focused on reaching our special goals, she continued to write. We are built to hope. Well, guys, that is our video today. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure you hit like and share if you did. Also, subscribe to the channel, and, of course, ring the notification bell if you want to stay up to date on all things Patrol Clip. Also, be sure to drop anything you'd like to add in the comments below.
And until next time.